Hey, it's me again, and as you can see from the perspiration all over me, I am working out of the Valley of the Sun, sometimes referred to as hell, always referred to as Phoenix, or recalled as Phoenix. And it is very hot. It is August, and if you're someplace cool, I'm envious. Do you have an extra room? Nah, you'll be envying me in about a month or two. Because once it starts to get cold there, wherever it is you're at, I'll be saying, wow, it's really just like spring everywhere else for the next 8 months. In any event, today I am here to walk you through a little bit about using the Omni-1325 and the rich auto controller that is used to run the machine or control, if you want to be redundant. The machine itself uses the rich auto controller. You can also get it with Mach 3 running out of a PC. And the rich auto controller, which comes on the variable frequency and computing device right here, looks like this. It is a handheld controller, a pendant controller is sometimes the way it's referred to. It's got a green screen, 16 keys with multifunction. Okay. It's quite capable and very easy to use. So if you're just trying to get started with a controller, this is the one you want because it's very easy to use. But if you want to start doing more advanced things, because through the multi-menu and the multi-select keys, then you can do quite a bit more with it. Okay. So when you first turn the machine on, what you're going to hear, well, first of all, let's go over. You want to make sure that you have all of the E-stops in the out position. Otherwise, you can press on the green button all you want to, and nothing's going to happen. Whenever you press on the green button, you're going to hear some sounds coming out of here. There'll be the sound of a computer spinning up here. There'll be the sound of a lubricant motor right here. And then you'll hear some of the sounds of the motors that move the machine around coming on. So let's go ahead and see what happens whenever I turn that switch. Well, what do you know? I wasn't lying. Okay, so whenever you look at the rich auto controller at the start, it'll tell you that it is loading the operating system here. And you can see that, well, you can't see it, but I can see it. There's an option here, all axis home, Z axis home, no axis home. Okay, so you're going to always want to home the machine. That will establish a good reference point for the machine to know where it needs to be for all of the rest of the cut. So you're going to go ahead and press the green button, okay? And the machine is going to move to the home position. You're going to want to be careful that you don't have your hands or anything else in the way, because whenever you do, what will happen is you may lose a finger, like that, okay? So let's not do that. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and press the yellow button, which just lets me know that, hey, it's been homed, and now I'm going to go back to the previous menu. And I'm going to go ahead and press the Y button, Y positive, and that will move it back. If you can see this real quickly, you can see that there is 1, 2, 3, and then 5, 6, and 7. These two are for X-axis movement, these two are for Y-axis movement, and these two are for Z-axis movement. I hope you can see that. I apologize. If you can't, I'll go back over. X-axis, Y-axis, Z-axis. So we have homed the machine. Now we're going to want to establish where the datum point is for cutting. So I'll come back in just a moment and we'll go over that. Okay, so I'm back. So what we're going to walk through real quickly here is loading a file up to cut with the machine and referencing or establishing a datum point, and then cutting the material. So let's get started. Let's get started. So when you're going to first load your file for cutting on the machine, you want to insert it via the USB port here at the top. Okay. You put it in there right there. Okay. And you're going to go to the menu button, press the menu button. Another sub-menu will pop up, machine setup, auto pro setup, system setup, and operate file. We're going to go down to the Operate File menu. We're going to say OK. I'm going to get rid of those old files that I had on the machine from previously, so I'm going to go ahead and select down to Delete File, press OK. It'll only give me the option for the internal file delete. That's because it won't allow me to delete files on the USB key. I'm going to go ahead and press OK again, and there's one file there. It's named vcut.tap, and I'm going to select OK. No prompt to ask you whether or not you want to get rid of that file, so you better be sure you want to get rid of it. Okay, it's gone. So now let's go ahead and copy the files from the USB stick to the internal memory. So we're going to press up to the copy file, select the OK button. It's going to select from the UDisk file, which you're just going to have to use your imagination, that says USB drive. And then you're going to have several files in there. You may have some system files that show up. Don't worry about that. Go down to the files that are the G-code files that you want to copy. So in this case, I've got another file that's renamed vcut, same as the old file that was already in there. That's one reason why I had to delete it. The system won't allow me to copy files over the files that are existing, so I have to delete the files internally and then copy the new ones off of the USB stick. So I'll go ahead and press OK, and the file copied properly. So now it gives me the option to select the file again, and so I'm going to select down to the next one because we're doing a V-carve. We're going to have a pocket cut with a 0.25-inch bit and the V-cut portion with a 90-degree bit. So I'll go ahead and select OK, and it's copying the files, and then it says OK. Alright, so we're going to go press stop, cancel, and we'll go to, let's go to Operate File and go back and confirm that we actually have the files in here. So I can select the menu down, there's copy, delete, and then view file. So we go in here and we're going to select an internal file. We have UDisk file, internal file, and recent file. It's got a little memory to it, so if you use the file over and over again, it will retain the memory of that file usage, and it will simplify a little bit your selection of previous, your selection for the next cut. So we look at the internal file, and yes, I've got the correct files in there. There's a pocket file and a vcut tap file. So I'm going to go ahead and press the yellow button. That's pretty much the stop, cancel, escape, whatever you want to call it. It has stop written on it and cancel. And I'm going to go ahead and back all the way out to the top level menu. It's now got me a little message that says flash disk is okay. That basically was there because whenever I went to the menu or to the file operations menu, then it had to read the USB file and tell me whether or not it thought it was good. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that out now and close it up so I don't get any dust in it. And so now I'm going to move the spindle to the reference point for this piece of material to be cut from. So in this case, you can't see it, but on my machine, this axis is the x-axis, that axis is the y-axis, and this axis is the z-axis. So I have established this upper left corner facing from the operator's position to be the datum point for this cut. So I've got my clamp in the way a little bit there, so I'm going to move it back a little bit, tighten it back down, and that way I can get the spindle down into the right spot to measure. So I'll move here, I'm a little bit off in the X and quite a bit off in the Y, and of course all the way off in the Z. So I'll move it forward by pressing the Y negative button, and you can see it's moving forward. Okay. So now I'm going to move the X in the positive, so I'll press the 1 button, and I moved it a little bit too far, so I'll go ahead and press the 5 button, otherwise known as the X minus button, and I'm just about there. And then I'm going to move the Z button down, and because I've got a V bit, the V bit allows me to get a very sharp point as to where it is that I'm actually referencing the spindle off of it. So I'm sorry that you can't see this. It's not really very informative other than the talking that I'm doing right now. I'll get a video out later on if you're absolutely insistent that you've got to see the V-bit touching the corner. Dagnabbit, mister! This video is worthless without the V-bit touching the corner. So we move down, and now I can move a little closer, okay? And there we are, right about where we need to be. Okay? So I'm going to call that, I have two sets of axes that I can establish a 0 off of. The top button has XY and it's got an arrow pointing to 0, so that's the 0 axis for the XY. And then because of where I'm at, I could just use some of the old machining techniques to establish the 0, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and use the new wave, next generation modern mechanism for establishing Z. And I recommend using this most of the time because what this is a little electric sensor in a pad, and the V bit will come down, or the router bit spindle will come down and touch this. It'll close an electrical circuit, and whenever it does, the machine will then say, this is where the surface of the material that I'm going to cut is. And then it will retract very quickly, and you can use this as the very accurate measurement for where the surface of your material is. Okay? So make sure you unwrap it, and the most important part is when you pull it back up, make sure that you take it out. Otherwise, the spindle may grab your little cable, and if you don't watch out, you could be hit with a 24,000 RPM piece of brass, and it will hurt. Well, the worst part about it, though, will be it'll no longer be attached, and then you can't use it anymore. So let's go ahead and retract that just a little bit. We'll set our little brass pad down there. And now, in order to get the machine to auto Z, you need to press the on-off button and the menu button. Press the on-off button first, then the menu button, and you can hear it start to spin. And it is now moving down very slowly so that it does not crash through the brass pad. And as soon as it touches that brass pad, it's going to retract very quickly. I'm sorry, but I was in the military long enough to know that you're supposed to tell people what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. So you're going to get to hear this 3 times, whether you like it or not. So now I was babbling on, but I did, in my old senility, remember to pull the brass pad out of there. So I'm going to go ahead and set my wrench auto controller back in the sleeve. Put the brass pad back up here, okay? And we are pretty much ready to start cutting. So I'm going to stop the video here. I'll repoint the camera so you can see what's going on. Maybe that'll be a little bit more interesting. And just so you know, I'm going to turn the audio off because it's not very interesting to hear the fan blowing really hard because it's freaking hot in Phoenix. Did I say that already? And then you can watch the cutting, and I'll put some entertaining sort of, I don't know, elevator music. If you're lucky, you might get a little Led Zeppelin. I don't know. One last little bit of shared information. Whenever you get ready to start cutting the machine, the way you're going to do that is press the Run Pause button. When you do that, this menu is going to change. Okay, so now it's going to ask you where do you want to select the file from. I'm going to say internal because I've copied it to the internal position, but I could just as well operate off of a USB drive up here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and press OK again. It's going to ask me which file do you want to cut. You can't see it, but I've got a 90-degree V-bit. You're going to see it very shortly. So that's the V-cut file. I'm going to move down to that option. I'm going to say OK. Now it's going to ask me some work speeds. How fast do I want the machine to move around, etc. And it's got a speed scale and stuff. We're not going to go through that right now. But in any event, once I press that OK button, then it's got a 4-second delay. I put that delay in there so that just in case when I press the button I go, oh, wait a sec, I meant to. Then I can press the stop button, excuse me, and it will stop, and then I can do my reset up again. And that way I don't ruin a piece of wood. Okay? Hey, how you doing? So this is the offending cut that ruined my V-bit. This is actually a 48-inch wide by 24-inch long, or yeah, I guess long, since that's the y-axis, and 0.75 inches, otherwise known as 3/4 of an inch thick. What I did was in my Open V, I set the flat depth in millimeters. You could turn that around. It's about 1/4 of an inch, not quite. And what happened was the machining did more or less okay until it got right to that spot right there. And I'm not sure if I don't need to take a little bit closer look at the way these things are set up. These are, as I understand it, these are the vectors that tell you when your spindle retracts, it's going to go over here, and the routes that basically it's going to take as it moves through the retract space. And so my suspicion is that it said, nice big gaping hole, let's plunge deep here. And it went to the full 1/4 of an inch, and it is a very wide router bit. So, it got a pretty good um, grab, and the shaft itself is less than 1/4 of an inch, and I don't think that it's high carbide steel. I think it's probably just standard steel because the way it looked was nice and twisted. Fortunately, it didn't seem to damage the spindle head at all, so that's good. The collet looks okay. The wood is gone, and that frustrates me because I wanted to make an open and closed with on each side sign, and I guess that's not going to happen today because I've got some business I have to do for some other customers, and so the stuff I'm doing for myself is not going to happen. But in any event, keep this in mind whenever you're setting up your cuts, that what quality bits do you have? I'm not going to put any. Well, I'm going to throw a name out there. Amana Tools has probably been one of the best router bits I have bought, but the unfortunate thing is they are very expensive. I bought a 1/2 inch two flute end mill from Amana a couple of years ago, and that thing was so sharp, the edge cut me in the thumb without me even knowing it very deeply. It was like a razor. And that thing is hard and still going, and so it's like the Energizer bunny, excuse me. So that would be my recommendation: is if you're going to go get a bit, excuse me, get one from Amana. Tools today is probably not a bad place to shop. The other place, of course, is Amazon. They tend to have very good deals on stuff like this. So anyway, sad day in Mudville. Mighty Casey struck out, and hopefully we won't repeat this mistake again. And one way we're going to prevent that from happening is by buying